Hello, so my name is Natalia Pallis Hassani, and I'm excited to be talking to you today about the work that I conducted with Dr. Timothy Brady and Hayden Schill on the implications of naturalistic occlusion for face processing in ensemble perception. A little bit of background on ensemble perception. It is this heuristic that our visual system uses to take the average of redundancy in the world around us to overcome the attentional limitations of witnessing this redundancy. So in regards to low-level features, we can take the average of a group of colored dots, for example, and quickly extract what that average color may be. In regards to faces, we can look at a group of faces and quickly extract the average identity, emotion, race, gender, expression of the faces that we see. And this is an important heuristic because it has various social implications. For example, you walk into a room and you're quickly able to decipher that there might be something frightening in the space and that you shouldn't walk in because you see that all of these faces look scared and fearful. This ability for us to do that quickly makes it easy for us to make behavioral decisions. We know that this ensemble is used in faces when it comes to faces represented in its entirety without any occlusion, but what happens when faces are partially occluded? Haberman and Ulrich in 2015 did a study where they covered the faces partially with these blank squares and blocks, either on the top or bottom half of the faces. And they found that there was no impairment to ensemble perception. Participants were still able to take the average of the faces that they saw, whether or not they were occluded, which is great, but it is not an ecologically relevant occlusion. What happens when we see things that are more naturalistic, such as masks and sunglasses? Do we still see the same results that Haberman and Ulrich saw? Which led us to conduct an experiment where we tested both the identity processing and emotion processing of faces that were occluded by sunglasses or masks. Participants were shown either a single face for the sake of control or an ensemble of 4 faces that differed in either their identity or emotion. And then they were asked to select the face that they saw on the wheel. So either they select the single face that they saw, again, for the sake of control, or they will see these 4 faces and then they're asked, what is the average of the 4 faces that you saw? In conditions where participants saw an occlusion in the faces, they would see occlusions on the wheel as well. So there would be sunglasses on all of these faces in the condition where they see sunglasses here. And in the condition where there is no occlusion that we use for comparison, there is no occlusion here. And it's the same for the masked condition. And the faces are on this wheel here, and each degree in change along the wheel corresponds to a change in the face by 1 degree. And what we are measuring is the accuracy. How far from the true ensemble point, let's say it's right here, was the participant's choice, if it was right here. And this is error along this, in terms of degrees, along this 360-degree wheel. What we find is that participants are generally equally accurate for both occluded conditions as they are for non-occluded conditions. In other words, the error was roughly the same whether the faces were covered by masks and sunglasses or not, suggesting that we are able to overcome the obstruction and still derive the ensemble of the faces with or without occlusion. We did see a significant difference in individual conditions as compared to ensemble conditions, which merely suggests that the single face task might just be much easier than the ensemble face task. But even in the single face task, we still see these same results of no occlusion and occlusion being equally accurate in error. We also accounted for how close together the faces might be along this wheel, in other words, how similar they are. And participants see this peak at 0 error, meaning that they are more accurate at selecting the faces when they are closely clustered together. And their performance slowly drops as the faces get farther and farther apart, because if the faces are too far apart, it becomes an almost impossible task to select a point on the wheel. Overall, we find that the visual system can overcome the obstruction and continue to derive this ensemble, but there are many different, we have different ideas of how this might be taking place. And we do think that there is some disruption to holistic processing taking place due to the fact that we still saw these same results when we inverted conditions. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at the poster session.